Exactly 4 minutes past the top of the hour. You're right in time for our last conversation. This Monday morning, we look on matters family check, and we train our focus right now just looking at the state of marriages in our country. We peg this discussion basically on what the courts ruled, especially as far as paternity is concerned, and of their infants, as well as also just looking at where we are as a country in terms of marriages and divorce cases. Again, looking at the 2019 census report that did indicate we are slowly and steadily climbing that percentage in terms of divorce cases. On that same note, I have created first time with Pastor Hellen Njoki of Jesus Victory Center, who will be helping us converse about this and so much more. Pastor Hellen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Yeah, Doreen,
sorry.
Yes. Let's just start with first understanding what basically you're doing, because you have a movement,
yes,
Woman Travail,
yeah,
prayer movement for marriages.
Yes.
We first begin by understanding what Woman Travail is as we get deeper into what this prayer movement is all about.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much this wonderful morning. I thank God for giving me this opportunity, because it really matters in such a season. Woman Travail basically is a prayer movement for marriages, specifically for marriages. It's such a deep groaning in the heart of God that God desires to heal unions in such a nasty situation, in such a confused state of affairs in our unions, that God called me 2 years ago and told me, go and heal marriages. He gave me the name and told me marriages will be healed as you just pray. Yes.
You're saying that God called you and gave you the name, and I was just about to ask you, what's in the name? Woman Travail specifically, the name itself. What does it mean? What does this signify?
All right, Woman Travail basically means that this matters to us the most, is a deep groaning in the heart of a woman, which connected with the heart of God. Because when I was praying, I was not praying for marriages. I was just praying for my personal relationship with God. I went to the prayer mountain, and as I was praying, God called me. We shall talk this later. Yeah. God called me into a small office and told me ABCD. He told me, how many years have you been to that marriage? I told God 16 years.
This was
a vision. I was praying, and then I was taken.
When was this?
This was 2 years ago.
So in 2021?
Yes.
All right.
And now God tells me, come into this office. It was a small, beautiful office. And the Lord asked me, how long have you been to that marriage? I told God 16 years. And then God asked me, how then do you still feel? It's a mistake that you are still in that marriage. Because I am praying for this marriage, Madam Doreen, and I was like, no, God, I cannot continue to pray for it. And therefore I went to the mountain specifically to pray for my personal relationship with him, and now the church, the new church at Kawangware. And now that's how the Woman Travail. I actually was given the name the Wailing Woman. And I asked God, no, who will come when the name is we and wailing? Now, who will come to wail?
Signifies sorrow and crying.
So I told God, no, let it be another name. And God told me then, let it be a Travail Woman. I was like, yes, what is Travail Woman? Because I had not seen this before. I had not heard this before. And then I understand that it means a deep groaning of a woman saying that, God, this matters to me the most. So Travail, it means this matters to us the most.
This is something of great importance.
Yes, great importance to us. Because we understand that pastoral missions comes from a marriage. Everything, even you come from a marriage. So your source dictates how you carry your day.
I hear you. Yeah. So then also this comes from, aside from the fact that you had God, as you rightfully say, but also this comes from the fact that it was from your personal experience to some extent.
Yeah.
You know, without going so much into details, deeper into details, what was this? Just paint for us a picture. What was this?
I've been in marriage for 16 years by the grace of God, since 2007. And for more than 10 years, actually, for more than 10 years, I fought a lot of issues that I felt like, ni normal. like any other woman who is watching me. Anasema hii ni kawaida. I was meant to go through this. I was created to go through this. So I believed that. Even if I was born again, even if I was an associate pastor where I was going, I accommodated these things. And I felt like, yes, let's move together. Now, until in my line of ministry, in my line of prayer, God told me, no, I am about to do something in the nation of Kenya. I am about to do something on earth. And therefore, the thing that I'm about to do cannot be accommodated in the sad state of affairs that we are having in our marriages. Go and heal the institution, so that what I'm about to do can be sustained in the institution.
I hear you.
Yes.
I still want you to answer my question, so also we can get context and create context for this conversation. So then, that was the ministry.
Yes.
That is what, you know, you had in terms of the voice of God. But what issues were this? And like I said, without really going so much into detail, but just on a broader perspective, what are this?
Personally, for more than 10 years, I've battled depression, I've battled infidelity, I've battled rejection. Call it, name it. I've gone through it all. Yes.
This in marriage?
Yes.
Why did you feel the need to stay?
All right. Now, there is this thing that we say, a pastor.
I hear you.
And so many people...
you can't leave your marriage,
you can't,
as they say.
All right, you can't.
Watakuona vipi?
Watakuona vipi? Halafu pia mimi ni mchungaji, umeshindwa na kwako, kuko namna gani? These are the things that are holding us hostage. But again, I'm happy because God has seen it.
So for you in that moment, of course, healing came momentarily later afterwards. That's also why you began, you know, the prayer movement. But then in that moment, you felt the need to stay because of societal pressure. What will they say?
All right. Apart from the societal pressure, I also considered my children. I have 3 children.
Okay.
One is in Form 1, the other one grade 5 and PP2. And now I was like, oh God, now there is the perspective of everything when the child is raised by 2 parents. And again, I didn't want them to deny, I didn't want to deny them an opportunity to be raised by their father. So I was still optimistic. I was so positive. I was waiting on God that, God, when it is your will, as I am warning the women now, you know, we've been like, God, if it's your will, my marriage will be okay. But now God is asking us, can you now come out of this comfort zone? Can you come out of this and place your will on to what you want happen in your marriage? We place it and God will honor the will. I didn't know about that until now God spoke to me.
We'll come to the movement in a short while. I mean, we have some good amount of time to discuss that. So we'll come to that in a short while, and, you know, the counties you've covered, how you plan to do that, and, you know, what the long-term goal of that is. But before we get to all that, Pastor Hellen, just let's backtrace a bit. Yeah, you know, you've also talked about the fact that you did stay there in that time because of the children, and there's also a bit of what society would have said in that moment, and you realize that a good number of times this is why good number of women will stay even in abusive relationships and abusive marriage. How many times are we recording cases and numbers of gender-based violence? And of course, this, you know, when I talk about GBV, I'm just saying that this does cut across on both genders. Yeah? So then, how many people would stay in unions? Let me just say unions because I want to really bring both genders on board. Will stay in unions because of reasons such as this. But then they're hurting inside.
They're hurting. Yeah,
you know, they're being they're getting depressed, and it's like there's not much they can do about it. What is happening? What is the problem?
Now the problem is one. And this is what God is bringing on board, because it has been sidelined for a long time. Now, the mission, the initial plan of God concerning the unions has been violated, completely violated.
How so?
Because I and my husband doesn't really understand that we are not just in the union because of us.
Okay. So there's a bigger purpose to this.
Yes.
That we seemingly don't get.
We need to understand that we are in unions to allow the purpose of God in that institution. Remember, it is the only institution that was begun by God. Any other institution is man-made. But institution of marriage was begun by God. Like in the book of Genesis, chapter number 2, verse 18, the Bible says that God saw it was not good for a man to be alone. And therefore, he gave him, he created him a suitable spouse, a suitable helper. Now this suitability, it means that when you find your rib, because it's a man who finds the rib, not a woman. When the man finds a rib, it simply means you've gone to represent God in that union. And therefore, the only thing that I'm speaking to spouses is that be a God to each other. This is where we are failing it.
That's where we are failing. So as you say, as a man find that's in the word.
Yes.
Now we are living at a time where everyone is finding.
That's where the mistake is. Everyone is in search.
Even the woman is finding.
Yes.
And we're living at a time where we are saying, some would say there's nothing wrong with that.
But
is that part of the problem?
It could be.
Do
part
you
of
find
the
fault
problem.
with that?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. I find a problem with that.
Tell me more.
Because now, a woman proceeds from the man's rib. It means something left a man. And therefore, it is the duty of a man to find the rib that left him during creation. Now, confusion, yes, I'm the one looking for, and even to some extent, as pastors, we are doing even matchmaking.
So pastors are finding
yes, and I'm sorry for
you are a pastor.
I'm very sorry to every pastor
you are a
who
pastor.
is listening to me. They have been doing
Have
this.
you done that yourself?
I've never done this myself, but I've witnessed.
You've witnessed this happening?
A friend telling me, oh, pastor connected me with so-and-so. It should not be an issue. It should not be. Because when you do the matchmaking, I will feel like, I have a treasurer who is so good in prayer. I have maybe praise and worship leader. Then I want them to come together and make a home. That marriage will never last.
So what is the place of the church? Because, you know, our conversation this morning is also tailored around just looking at what the role of the church is. And because just before you go, you know, Pastor Hellen, because just as you're telling me that the church is, quote unquote, also to blame when you talked about the matchmaking and you juxtaposed that with what the Bible is saying, which is not what the church is doing. So is it what is the role? Because it's supposed to be helping, but then it looks like it's not helping the situation.
All right, let me tell you the truth.
Okay.
When I'm talking about woman travail, I am not talking about believers.
Right.
I'm not talking about the non-believers. I'm not talking about the Islams and Hindus and everybody. Woman travail is for everybody.
There's no religion in this.
No, this one is an interdenominational in everybody, because what is ailing a non-believer is ailing a pastor.
Okay.
Apostles are going to their early graves because of the stresses they are going through in marriages. A non-believer is fighting the same issue. And therefore, I don't think I need to apologize, because we, Hellen included, might have contributed to what we are saying today. Instead of being gods and execute the advice or even the counsel that the heaven requires from the body of Christ, we are finding ourselves facilitating the wrong unions.
I find what you're saying very interesting, Hellen, that even pastors, you know why I ask that is because, especially from a Christian perspective, or just talk about any interdenominational, there's always this notion that, you know, pastors, church leaders, talk about sheikhs, whatever religion it is, we always have this notion that their homes, they are the examples. So then if you have an issue, this is the place of refuge. I just see you disagreeing with that, like, you know, like if you have, let's take a case in point of a church. Let's go with a church, you know, Christians in that regard. So then you will believe that if you are a couple married with children, not children, whatever it is, that anytime you have an issue in your marriage, And we've seen that, especially for women, yeah?
Of course.
Yeah, they run to the pastors.
Let me tell you, my dear Doreen, there is a lot of pretense
in the church,
in the institution of marriage, and that's why I didn't
in the
come
church
here.
or in the marriage.
I didn't come here to speak about the church per se.
Yeah.
I'm here for the institution of marriage, bearing in mind pastors comes from marriages.
Yeah.
And now what happens is, because now you come to the pastor, you cannot see the bleeding wounds of a pastor.
Because it's supposed to be strong?
Yeah. He has to they have to put on a strong face. Yet, something is burning in their house. Mark you, the enemy doesn't have a problem with the church. He has a problem with the marriage. Because everything else originates from
because the church is you and
I. So today I'm not talking about the church.
Yeah.
I want to deal with the institution of marriage.
Okay.
And I know when the institution is rectified, we are going to go. We are going to fill the stadiums. We are going to do mega churches. The anointing of pastors, apostles, prophets will just flow.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes.
Now that you're there, let me just look at this. This is data released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics in the 2019 census report that did really put in categories how the rate of divorce cases in this country has increased from 2020, 21 and 2022. In 2020 we are talking about 3,476 were recorded, while in 2021 there were 4,987 cases. Just look at how it's been increasing. Yeah. In 2022 the case jumped to 5,611, and what KBS also did release was that when you look at how these numbers have been increasing, again, also in terms of percentages, from when the previous census was conducted to now the recent one in 2019, it showed the increase from 14 to 16%. So it shows you that the next census, when it will be conducted, probably we might be seeing an increase. Leave the church out of this.
Yes.
Let's just talk about
this percentage.
Exactly. And what could be leading to this increase? Because by the time you're meeting someone, it is you who has decided.
Of course.
It is you.
You've agreed.
No one. Okay. We agree that in some places there could be coercion, but a good number of times in the time that you're living this 21st century, you have just decided.
You've decided.
So what is happening? What is it?
I'll still go back to what I was telling you. The challenges and the problems of all things is the marriage issue.
Yeah, and we are there.
That's where we are.
Yes.
Umelelewa wapi.
Okay.
So, your brought up culture will, in one way or another, affect the kind of a wife you
upbringing, you say?
Yes.
Okay.
It will affect your womanhood or even your wifehood in that marriage.
Right.
Your husbandhood will be affected by the way you are brought up. You know, I'm sorry to say that I was brought up in a marriage, in a family whereby chaotic was the order of the day. Day and night, it was so chaotic. We couldn't find ourselves, even hata sisi tunaingilia kwa sababu sasa.
That's what you saw growing up?
This is my life experience, where I'm brought up from. And that's why I have decided to change all these scenarios so that when my children will be growing up, the environment will be a different one. So that when they will be transiting now to their unions, there shall be a safe landing. Now that they have seen mom and dad doing ABCD, they have experienced a certain environment. So, if at all you've been brought up in such an environment, be sure umeingia tu kwa indoa lakini uko na perspective fulani, ni kama umeingia ukiwa na mtego fulani. If this man dares do what daddy does, I'll just leave. You know,
so there's a perception already you
kuna
have.
Kitu ambayo, kuna attitude fulani uko nayo na umeingia kwa ndoa nayo, which might not work. So, anytime a man just speaks, because men speaks, I'm telling you, men speaks. So, if your man just speaks as a normal man, because once they get into that house, they are no longer prophets, they are no longer apostles, they are no longer pastors, they are husbands and fathers. Once they speak, you just begin to escalate their voice to the voice of your father. And now you see what you've already calculated the results. So you begin to pack. That's the situation.
Let's stay on this upbringing bit for a moment, just before we take that break. Let's stay there for a moment, because we keep saying that we are a product of where we come from.
Yeah.
And a product of our environment.
Yes.
Like there's barely so much you can do about that, because I mean, this is where you were born. This is where you grew up.
Yeah.
So then how do you deal with it? You know why I ask that, Hellen, is because in a broader perspective of life, just even aside from marriage, you realize that where you have been brought up, your upbringing dictates a lot about the kind of person you will become. Even just how you relate with people around you. Even co-workers, colleagues, people you meet.
Yes.
Yes. Escalating to even marriage, it's actually a lot of how you have been brought up as a person. So if this is the case scenario, that someone just came from what we'd call the dysfunctional homes, a lot of violence.
A lot of violence.
Yes, just like also you did mention. So then how do you deal with this? Because at times you don't even realize that it has gotten so much into you that it even is affecting the kind of person you are and becoming. How do you deal with it?
Now, this is where we are coming in as Woman Travail.
Okay.
I go back there. This is where now we are coming in. We are dedicated now to change what is happening. Because if my child grows up seeing the father slapping the mother, and that's the only way to discipline the mother. So in future, that's what is created in her. Ataelewa vizuri sana, if I make a mistake in my marriage, the only way to be disciplined is through a slap. And that's why you can see many hawana mikono, wengine hawana miguu, wengine macho walitolewa. And sorry to say, most of them, we've buried them. We've lost a lot of lives. Because
this will still be happening, and they will still be staying there.
Yes.
Because culture says you cannot exit.
Now you cannot exit. What about now? If we change what is happening, we bring the change in the environment. If they have adapted to the environment of violence, we tell them there is another environment that God is able to bring. When they adapt this environment, they'll begin to bring up children in God's way. And when they transit to their adulthood, they will not come out of these ways. These are the things Woman Travail is advocating for, is into to change the environment in our marriages.
I hear you.
So that hata kama imeenda to the extreme, God is going to redeem. There is no marriage that is beyond redemption. That violence can change. Yes.
I hear you. And just talk to me about, you know, the different women you've talked or you have engaged with. I know you also have a plan to go beyond Nairobi, go to different counties. And just before I ask that question, is this just about women only?
It's not about women only.
So men, it's for
actually both. In our last county edition, Embu County, we were at CRT, hosted by Apostle Gideon Boito in Embu County. Actually 40% were men. 40% were men, because marriages consist of a man and a woman.
Exactly. I wanted to get that very clear, because anytime we talk about marriages, we always think it's a woman's affair.
No. It's
a woman's thing.
No.
So this is actually conclusive. It's inclusive, I should say.
Yes.
It cuts across, which is a good thing. So then I wanted now to ask you. So going by the statistics that we've just seen, what was released by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and we have clearly seen that these numbers continue to increase, they spiral. What issues are you gathering that is causing quite a lot of increase in divorce cases from how you've interacted with?
Okay, we want to stand on the ground to bring back the initial plan of God regarding unions. Now, because it has been violated. It was violated a long time ago. And now this is the sanity we are bringing back to this institution. Do you understand why you need to get into marriage?
Okay.
Now, if you understand the mind of God concerning your unions, hizi vita zote hazitakuwa. For real hazitakuwa. If you understand that the initial plan of God, the marriage was to be for two people. But how many marriages do they apply the order of two?
Hold it there.
How many marriages?
hold it there. I'm hearing a lot of papas. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm hearing a lot of we need to understand more. We want to take a very quick breather, Helen. We come back. We look at these issues, how to navigate them, and also where does this leave children when we talk about broken homes and broken families, and how we can deal with that.
Yes.
Time for that breather. We circle back with plenty more of this conversation. So stay put. To your valid company, we continue apace with the day's conversation, still holding court with Pastor Hellen Njoki of Jesus Victory Center. Now, before we took that break, Helen, we're talking about how purpose is really very important. Let's talk about the union, that is marriage, and that you were telling us that that's one of those things that we sort of like miss. We don't sometimes understand how important this is. And just as you respond to that, I also wanted you to tell us from your interactions, what are you picking as the major problems and issues in marriages?
All right. One of the major issues that I'm picking, madam, is like we are getting into unions with a long perception or even perspective. We do not take the need of God in your union. Imagine even ndoa yako, you need to be a God to your husband. This is where simply we are failing. Like now, the way you deal with your husband akikukosea, do you deal with him like vile Mungu deal na wewe ukimkosea? Let's begin from there.
Forgiving, understanding.
If now we take the position of gods in our
But
unions,
someone would say we are just humans. We have been hurt as well. We feel the pain.
God will not come and occupy that union. He has fused himself in you. Be a God. Represent him fully in that union. When your husband makes a mistake, please see him how God would see him. Okay.
So what's the how
practicability? I know you're asking how possible it is. It is because I'm believing God to raise a generation that will not do marriage because of how they feel.
Okay. Leave feelings aside. That's what you're saying.
Yes. Feelings and reactions and what have you. You need to take an action instead of a reaction. Reactions are killing our marriages. When you take an action, it means you simply go to God. God, you gave me this man. You created him. What should I do with what he has done? So this is the practicability of it all.
Okay. So you're saying that if we keep missing this aspect of purpose, as you've constantly alluded to,
we cannot do it.
Yeah. If we keep saying it's because I felt this way, these numbers that you're seeing here, we might
continue to rise.
Yeah, we might see 6,000, 7,000.
And actually, in the next 10 years, we will not have a single marriage. Or even we will have maybe 5%. But marriages will not be working. And that's why now, ukiona kijana wangu amefikisha like 18 years, ameingia campus and what have you, because the father failed in the marriage, he failed completely. Akienda tu ka campus, atakuwa tu attracted na boys. Because the mother failed, my daughters will be attracted to their daughters. Because they don't see the need of unions. They don't see the need of a kingdom marriage. A kingdom marriage is a marriage that leaves the purpose of God in their unions. This is what I'm advocating. And unless this one actualizes, tutakuwa tu hapa tukipigana, sijui bili imepita, sijui nini imepita. But it is us, parents, who are failing the whole institution. Because if I dare bring my children in a godly way, they will understand there is a position of a father in a marriage. There is no union without a father. My boy will understand from the father's point of view that there is no marriage without a woman. But what are we witnessing? Boy to boy relationship. Girl to girl relationship. Until when? Then we are here blaming the society. The society is not to blame. Let us rectify things from our homes. Yes.
So what I'm gathering from you is that you know, most of even what we see, it's deep-rooted.
Very deep.
Yeah.
It's too deep.
Because clearly what you're saying is that then there's a lot that also the institution that is the existing family needs to be doing if we are supposed to be averting some of these cases that you. And there's something that else that I also want us to talk about, because you can't talk about unions and marriages and fail to talk about children.
Yes.
Now we are having quite the number of cases of broken families and blended families. Just the other day, if my memory serves me correct, about just this past week, the court did say that also fathers are entitled to their infants. You know, over time in our law, we've been having that if a union breaks, the individuals are going their separate ways. If it's an infant, then they need to be staying with their mothers. But now the court is even saying even fathers are entitled to that. So depending on whichever way the case might go or will go, if it leans on the father that can take care of this 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, then they'll be left with that.
Right.
So you realize the impact is so deep to children, or for children I should say, because you can imagine if a marriage is supposed to be, or if it will break, this 5-year-old, this 6-year-old, how are they growing up?
I want you to treat whatever you're seeing as just symptoms of rotten unions that we are having.
Okay.
The cases we are having even in social media, we need to treat them as wanting symptoms of where we are coming from. And I'm telling you the truth. What you're seeing even in court rulings and everything else, it is sending us back to the root. Now, can you tell me what a small girl, maybe an infant of 5 months, being brought up by a father, hata wainjua kama, you know, how to be a woman, how to be a wife. You see, but these ones are just by signs. We need to go back to the roots. Let's not go to the divorces, because as for me, I might not go, I might not deal so much with the divorces, because these are the areas, these are the doors, these are the areas I want to close permanently from our future institution. This is where I am. This is where I'm standing. That in future we shall have 0 separations, 0 divorces, because we shall have people who get into unions to know why they are there. You find that wewe kabla uolewe ulikuwa so passionate, so loving, so charming, all of a sudden umeingia tu kwa ndoa. My friend, ingia kwa depression, ingia kwa all these things. Reduce. Now, the institution that was supposed to puff you up, change you, maybe groom you better, get the best out of you, you're the same institution ambayo inakumaliza. Now, we are missing it from the purpose.
Okay.
So, let's not go to the divorce part of it, because I believe if God called me, because I know he called me, in the next 5 years, we shall have reduced cases of divorces and separations. This is what I am for. And I'm telling God, no, God, if you called me into this institution, there must be tangible results. And I thank God when we did the first county meeting, Woman Travail in Embu County CRT, hosted by Apostle Gideon, 11 marriages were restored. So seeing what God is doing, for me, is so fulfilling, and I am positive that in the next 5 years we shall now give back the glory of marriages, because it's no longer there. I had my boss telling me marriage is a scam. They are calling it scams. Why? Because the values of a good marriage no longer exist.
Yeah, and it's
what actually scams.
It's even become a norm to say it's fallacy, it's a scam. And this is okay.
It's too traumatizing. It's really traumatizing.
I get you. I also want to get your stand on something. And this again also in regards to what the courts have just recently ruled, that having children together and staying together in what would call come we stay, they're not qualified as marriages. You as a pastor, you have your standing, and just earlier on in this conversation you did tell us of how the institution of marriage comes about, how God instituted it, and this was not one of the ways. So from where you sit, do you think this is one of those reasons that lead to quick separations? Why I ask that is because there are some quarters who would argue that if there's no binding, then it's easier anytime there's issues. And there are other quarters that would argue if one wants to leave, whether there's a binding or not, they will just leave. When I talk about binding, I talk about perhaps getting married, dowry paid, if it's a wedding and all that, basically. So, what's your standing on that?
As Hellen.
Yes.
This is Hellen's position.
Yeah.
I would simply say that when God created man, alimtoa rib. So, if you find your rib, that's all what you need for the purpose of God to remain in your union. Number two, them that are finding themselves now, they are finding the purpose of God. Na walikuwa washachukua na you don't have to get out. Go look for a husband. Go look for a wife. The Bible says, I think in the book of Philippians, I can't remember the chapter in the first, that if one of the spouses realizes themselves and get back to the purpose of God regarding their unions, the children they get are purified, and their spouses get purified and consecrated through the stand of one spouses. And therefore, I might not be able to reach two spouses. I'm targeting to get one. If I get a woman, and the woman realizes this is the position of God in my marriage, and I'm occupying the position, then they will be able to align everything in their marriage. And now the things that we are seeing, the signs, the symptoms of dark marriage will just be scrapped away. Pole. Now what we are experiencing in courts, ni sisi tunawapelekea. They don't come for us. And therefore, if we rectify, they will not have anything to say.
So there's a lot
we shall have dealt with the source. Mark you, whatever is happening in courts is just ni dalili tu ya kile tunafanya.
So you're saying that there's a lot of work that we
hapa kwa root
that we need to be doing. Right now, so talk to me now about the prayer movement for marriages. You began in Nairobi, you are going to counties, and I liked what you're saying, that this is not just about women. And right now when we're having conversations, especially about this kind of conversations, we keep saying that a lot of focus has been put on the woman, sometimes so much at the expense,
Okay, the reason is to why
of the boy child and the man. So I like that you are including all genders. Let's come and converse about these issues.
Now let me tell you the truth. Even when God was reaching out to us, he had to use a woman. He used Mary. Women are faceted in a way they can be able to accommodate anything, and they can be able to, to allow God to use them. Imagine just allowing you to be used of the Holy Ghost and you give birth to a child. It's amazing. It's a mystery. And therefore God, this season, has decided to use a woman to rectify and redeem marriages. I am aware, because I'm a pastor, we interact with so many pastors, so many men of God, so many non-believers. I'm a friend to all, but with boundaries. Now, I've heard the cries. Lakini sio yenye imenifanya niingie kwa Travail. Hapana. But I'm traveling with practicability of what is happening in the ground, because I've ever been there. By the way, when God called me to Woman Travail, my marriage healed. So I don't speak from a point of judgment. I don't speak from a point of pain. I'm completely whole. I am healed. I cannot remember when we had wrangles in my marriage. God healed me and told me this is a sign that marriages won't be healed. So I have a sign. And on the first day we did our physical meeting in Embu County, marriages were restored. And therefore I am planning to do meetings from one county to another. We did the Embu Woman Travail, that's my mother county, nimezaliwa Embu. So we are planning to do another Woman Travail in Makueni County. We are going to Kericho in the month of May or June. April we are going to Makueni. And therefore I'm feeling like, and this one is not a church thing. This one is for everyone that is in marriage. You either come out of a marriage, divorced or separated, you are wailing in your marriage, anybody you are anticipating to get into your future marriage, these are your meetings. We are accommodating everyone. And when we heal this institution, any other channel will open and flourish freely without struggles.
I hear you.
So visions and dreams anointings and ministries are being sabotaged from the institution of marriage. It's a sad state of affairs. And anytime I've been doing these meetings online, and anytime, by the way, anytime I come live, and even when I hold the meeting, even in Embu County, at some point when ministering, my heart or even my spirit connects with what God is feeling concerning the union. And all what I can do, Madam Don, all what I can do is just to shed tears when I get to know the deep things that are happening in our unions, and we expect Doreen to show up so strong. Yet you fought a rejection battle in your marriage the whole night, a depression, you ukona to tembe to kushukisha pressure. You know, it's so saddening because God did not intend it to be that way.
You know, you just said something that I realized it's quite a lot happening in our society that we don't really talk about so much. So, rejection.
Yeah.
Rejection in marriages.
It is there.
And this comes from extended family.
Exactly. And you're supposed to
so that's why they say that when you're thinking of marriage, you're not marrying the person, you're equally marrying the family.
You're marrying the society, my friend. The society, you're marrying the society. But now, once two of you get to understand why are we getting in this institution, it conquers all. The other society members all adjust.
Will adjust.
But now, if one member doesn't understand that you're a too beautiful girl, sijui akaona mother of my kids,
we have like 4 minutes. I don't know. It's interesting that when you talk about such kind of, you know, when you have these conversations, they just never seem to end. There's really quite a lot to discuss. But I wouldn't want us to exit without talking about the structure. Talk to me about how you are doing this, because having to incorporate both genders, also taking cognizance of the fact that issues are different from what a woman would suffer or what would go through with marriage is sort of like entirely different from what a man, much as they're together, because of also how we are created, how we are formed, and just our different genders. So how does this structure look like as you reach out to this persons, as you reach out to those in marriages, those wanting to get to these unions? How is it looking like?
It is a national campaign for marriage, let me call it. It's a national campaign for marriage, and again, it's a global thing, because what is happening in Kenya is happening in South Africa, happening in the whole world.
Definitely.
Now, what there is, when God created a man, he gave him a helper, and therefore, a helper is always stronger than the helped. Now, we are investing so much in a woman.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Helper is stronger than the one being helped.
If I tell you, come and help me lift this one.
I'm just, I'm giving the helping hand because you're supposed to be doing it.
No. You are the strongest.
Oh, yeah.
You are the pillar for that man. So if I understand, if I be able to transform your perception regarding the union, that marriage will stand. Okay? And this is what we are doing. The structures are into place. We are talking with the head of counties. These are the people we are planning the meetings with. It's not a person, it's not religious. So we are dealing with the MCAs, the county assembly, our watu. Ndio wanatusaidia kupanga hii mikutano.
So you're bringing on board the leaders, political leaders for
everyone. Everyone is involved in this thing. Hii kitu lazima tushike wote. We have to enjoy marriages. The glory must come back to our unions. And I'm not resting until it happens. I have given my life to it, because I'm not looking to a situation whereby my daughter will ask me, Mom, where were you when this happened? Ati nikiwa tu na 8 years nasikia mtoto wangu ameoa msichana. It won't be so saddening. It won't be a sad state of affair. So that's why I'm given out to this. Yeah.
This is why your heart is so
my heart is
sent out to this.
Yes, I'm sold out to Woman Travail.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the next county is you're going to Makueni.
Yeah.
How has the reception been to the different places you have been so far?
It has been overwhelming.
Taking it.
Men came in large numbers. 40% of the congregation was men. How we accommodate men? We've been in every physical meeting we've been having different county representatives. In Embu we had 15 different county representatives, and therefore in every county we always have one person praying for the county. That's how we accommodate all the counties. I'm trusting God that when we'll be going to Makueni, we shall have at least 20 counties represented.
Do you like track back? You know, it's one thing to have the meetings, pray together, make sure unions are restored. They're receiving it very positively, as you say, but you realize issues sometimes they just would never end, or they would come in different forms, shapes and sizes. So do you track back to see how, you know, okay, it was good, it's been restored?
It has been good. Thank you so much. Now, what happens is that every time I do the meeting on a Saturday, it happens on Saturdays, on Sunday, I'm always in the same place. Now I'll have one-on-one with the people who maybe their marriages were healed. Maybe I listen out to where I can help, so I listen to them. Then we can track with each other through the pastor, through their pastor.
All right. So you really you go all out. That's actually what I was asking. The follow-up. Because sometimes you realize things are done, it's good enough, but then again, you come back 3 years later and you
find the same problem. That's why now we are having every representative from counties. Now we connect them with the people that needs my attention, needs the healing. And the therapists, of course. So we connect from there. The channel continues. When it gets back to me and needs my attention, I go back. Like now I'm hearing that Embu is calling us back. We do the second edition. Now it will depend with the numbers of the cases that needs to be attended to.
I hear you. So as we wrap up, Hellen, what is this that you would want society to know? What is this that you want people to know? What is it that you want those in unions, in marriages, those intending to get to these spaces to know?
I am here even to say to the nation of Kenya, God wants the marriages to know that ministries are not in the pulpit. The real ministry is in your marriage. When every one of us will stick to this, that my ministry is my marriage, then you find the place of God in that marriage, then you move. Yes.
I like what you've said. You know why? Because the speaker who said, if your ministry cannot work at home, don't bring it to the
preaching.
pulpit. Leave it alone.
Preaching. And there are people who are like, I slap my wife in the morning and then I go to preach. What are you preaching? Go back home.
And you know, when you say pulpit, does not mean like the pastor. Pulpit is your area that you represent.
Your area.
So if it can't work in your house, just let it be.
You can't be a leader anywhere if you cannot lead one woman, one man.
And children.
Children. And they are not more than 10. Then you start to be a leader. Leads who? Then please, this institution must come back to sanity by the grace of God.
I hear you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Pastor Hellen, for your time and your valuable inputs into this conversation. Highly appreciated.
All right.
I have been speaking to Pastor Hellen Njoki of Jesus Victory Center, Woman Travail. Movement for Marriages is what has formed center of our conversation, just also taking into account the different court rulings as far as matters of marriages and family is concerned. Good place to end this conversation, and ultimately, good morning, Kenya, from me and on behalf of the entire team. Asante sana. Till tomorrow, good morning.